What is up, everybody? This is Silver Spook, and this is the Silver Spook video about the United States Clownarchy getting the popcorn and organized for accelerated collapse. Yes. Um, yes. You might recognize that picture. That picture for the opening graphic is from earlier this week when the Trump administration and the Doge Department of Government Efficiency the Department of Government Efficiency under Elon Musk restricted. I don't know what the right term is for this. This is where it gets tricky. Elon Musk and the Trump administration stopped the U.S. Congress, Bernie Sanders, and AOC and all the representatives. All the U.S. Congress was stopped from getting into the Department of Education, where they strong-armed. Now, it doesn't really look like anybody's putting hands on them if you look closely. So I don't really know what to say about that. We'll see. We'll see what is the correct verbiage for what is happening in this picture here, right? Yeah. So, but yeah. So the main thing is that if you don't take away anything else, I suppose it's not really a new message for the Silver Spook YouTube videos. But yeah, the collapse of the empire is continuing. The U.S. collapse is continuing. I think it's one thing that is an update is that it's accelerating. It is like speeding up, I feel, based upon what I can gather from what's happening there. Although there's so much disinformation out there, it can be hard to get a good hold, even if you have a multifaceted globally distributed set of sources as possible. It can be hard to grasp, but I think that but I mean one thing that is consistent, I think, with Trump and with Elon and Trump and his people in his orbit, his Mar-a-Lago folks. Trump is consistent in like some things, he does, like I've said frequently, obviously, and most people kind of will recognize he does things for himself above all else, right? Again, against, even if it's against the interest of oligarchic class, the millionaire billionaire class, the neocon Republican or Democrat elite, the puppets that they're the puppets of the elites. But Trump doesn't really care about any of that, right? He cares about himself above all else. Right? That's definitely a Trumpian outlook, and so that is not conducive, though, to again, that's not conducive to maintaining a unipolar U.S.-led imperial capitalist world, controlling the world. And controlling the world cannot be efficiently done if you only think about yourself, and even yourself in the short term, right? You have to think at least a little bit slightly long term, right? The U.S.'s rulers have not been, the neo-feudal U.S. rulers have not been particularly good at any time, I think, of this, at doing this, but they were more competent. They tend to have been more competent under liberals, under Democrats, or that whole side of the coin, as compared to Trumpian conservatives and Republicans, and I think Republicans in general. Certainly in the post-World War II era, which is the era of the U.S. hegemony, and the Western imperial capitalist, neo-colonial, more mask on, velvet glove rule of the world, or attempted rule of the world. So like and then so Trump, um, in the first Trump term, the U.S. Which is a concrete example of that is in the first Trump term, at the beginning, the U.S. Pentagon estimated that China would surpass the United States in economic and other domains of power by 2035. They always know this is coming, right? They always knew this is coming. That's why they're trying to stop the rise of China and maintain their planetary control, but they're losing it, obviously. But they kind of knew this was coming, and estimated it would be around that time. That's why the U.S. empire makes plans to start proxy wars with and around China, trade, hybrid, all full spectrum warfare of all kinds, psychological, informational warfare. And they really need to accelerate that in the mid 2020s. This was estimated by the Brand Corporation, estimated by the DoD, Pentagon, various think tanks, in and in the orbit of DC, that they needed to do this. But after Trump's first term, that was decreased to 2028. So there was a 7-year decline in, that's a concrete, like one real example where, this is it's the empire analyzing itself. So it's not Russia saying something, or this is not China or Russia. It's not a BRICS newspaper saying something. This is not that they lie very much, but this is not this is not just some random Democrat or a leftist in the United States saying something. This is not like the Anarchist Times from Seattle, or New York Times just getting mad at Trump. These are internal documents from the U.S. military, U.S. intelligence, saying we have a problem here. We're losing control. We're losing economic, military, tech. We're losing soft power. We're losing our trading partners faster and faster. Right? It was already accelerating at that time. The decline was happening. Right? The rate of the U.S. decline was happening, but it was somewhat stable under the Obama era before that. They weren't worrying about it too much under the George W. Bush era, because it was still thought that Russia and China could still be subordinated. Even in the Bush era, Bush was not the best, obviously. He was an idiot as well. He was quite a clown, right? Getting up on screen and staring off, teleprompterless, when the World Trade Center was hit, and just kind of like staring off into the distance, bewildered, right? Not unsure what to say. He said things like, "Is our children reading?" Like, he obviously never learned to read, like the majority of Americans never learned to read above a 6th grade level. So, just George W. Bush, he was a kind of a clown, but he didn't run the show at that time. It was, neocons behind him, like Cheney and Rumsfeld, and the U.S. was still in the unipolar world where the U.S. and imperial capitalist neocolonialism would dominate the earth indefinitely. Maybe in the background there was China was growing, but as long as China could be, it was believed that China could be subordinated. It was not vassalized, but China was not a threat to the U.S. planetary imperial power, right? So they're not thinking about it very much. In the 2010s, once Obama came into office, not just Obama, but his that whole team, right? The Democrat team of the two-party empire, there was a more serious examination, right? Vladimir Putin made his famous speech where he said that Russia is going to start to chart its own path. We're not going to follow, diktats from the West anymore. And then China also said we're not going to. China just began doing things that were increasingly worrying. It was not being as subordinate. It was not following orders as much as the U.S. wanted it to. The Chinese started to move in different directions, right? Xi Jinping also recently come into power, and was his administration, government was going through a more serious, like similar to Putin actually, going through a more serious cleaning out of corruption in the government. And this was a problem for the United States because the United States was counting on the the people who are willing to do the bidding of whoever pays them money, right? It's called corruption, right? That's what capitalism requires. Corruption ultimately, it's a system of mass organized crime, and brainwashing, disinformation, crime, brainwashing, lying, cheating, stealing, or killing. That's how it can keep itself going. And so the U.S. was worried that if it didn't keep expanding the not that the Communist Party was ever fully subordinated, but like the U.S. thought it could infiltrate the Chinese government and control it the way that it controls, the governments of Canada, the governments of the governments of Germany, UK, the government all of Europe, many African countries, Arab countries, all of the world, Japan, South Korea, right? Not so much North Korea, but the United States thought that like in the late 90s, in the 90s, in the noughties, the U.S. thought, okay, we can control this earth by giving handfuls of officials at the top of all these countries larger sums of money, right? Brainwashing populations. If we keep doing this, control the tech, we control the military, tech dominance. We'll have social media. We'll have Facebook. At the time, it was MySpace. It was Facebook. Of Google. We'll put Google and Facebook on everyone's computers, right? And we'll have everyone will use American hardware or American controlled hardware, Samsung or Apple hardware, American software, American TV, American newspapers, and we'll control everyone's mind and what information they have or what the narrative of the world they live in, and then we'll control everyone's government by giving them money from U.S. printed money through USAID, NED, CIA, well, CIA before the evolution of the USAID and other entities, not just USAID, many other backdoor ways to throw money around the world. So we'll control financially, we'll control governments, we'll corrupt them, we'll control the minds of the masses through the digital, the most modern forms of information distribution, right? Phones, computers, social media, search, all the high tech, right? So tech dominance is super important, and then we'll control everyone else through military, although less and less, right? Because the U.S.'s military is still strong, but it's getting weaker. It has been getting weaker and weaker and weaker and weaker. And so what they have is money. They can print money, and they can, through their capitalist control of that, they can try to maintain on their shores, in their small clutch of global billionaire elites' hands that operate through the U.S. They can try to keep tech dominance, to keep narrative dominance. That's the most important thing for them, right? Because if you can brainwash entire countries into throwing their citizens into wars for you, right? Like if you can brainwash Ukrainians into fighting a war for you, right? And then you don't have to have a military as much, right? You can brainwash the Koreans, South Korea, and control their government and their people, and you can throw them. You can kill millions of Koreans, right, without having to use your American soldiers as much. Americans are mostly used as like location finders for like innocent children, right? Like in the Middle East, right? Like in Palestine. American soldiers are not so much dying over there, and the U.S. is happy to have that because it can be difficult for the U.S. if they want in the Iraq War, in the Vietnam and Iraq wars, American soldiers start coming back in coffins, and it makes it harder for the imperial capitalists to control the planet. So have other countries get brainwashed through U.S. TV, USAID, social media, text that shadow ban. We talked about DeepSeek a lot in the last couple of streams. So that's why DeepSeek TikTok has to be stopped, because without U.S. tech, narrative, information, hardware, software control, the U.S. will die eventually. Because if people start getting most of the information through Red Note, Xiaohongshu, Chinese search, Weibo, Chinese hardware, right? It doesn't lie, right? And doesn't spread false information that causes millions of people to throw money, weapons, and their own children, right, into proxy wars. The U.S. has no cannon fodder, right? It loses cannon fodder. It loses its imperial capitalist colonialist narrative control, and then that will begin to dry. It begins to wither the empire, and the capitalist system as a whole, and the imperialist system as a whole, which is great for the world. Now that's not good for the Clownarchs. So not good for Elon, and it's not good for all of his friends. It's not good for Donald Trump in the long run. But Donald Trump doesn't care what's good for him in the long run. He's like, I'm gonna be dead soon. But that he is very honest like that, right? Donald Trump's like, I don't give a shit. I don't want to be seen to lose a war in Ukraine. I don't care if like, I don't care if like, trying to control high tech and interventions it might help extend us longer. I don't care that like America, at least appearing to defend human rights, freedom, and democracy worldwide, is more effective because the liberals are more effective at that. It has been more effective. If the Republicans, if like mask off, right? If the U.S. just said, yeah, we lie, cheat, steal, kill. We don't care about human rights, freedom, and democracy for the last 40 years. The U.S. empire could have collapsed by 1995, right? And that would have been good for the world, right? Because then we might be out of the imperial capitalist system. The largest, most powerful countries would be have communist parties, and they'd be building a socialist path. We could have had BRICS. We could have had BRICS and the liberation of Africa and poor Asian countries and poor South American, Central American countries and the Pacific, right? The U.S. military bases could have been gone by 1995, but we had liberals instead, and they're more virulent. They're like the Republicans are like a flu. Republicans and Elon are like the flu. It's not good, it's not fun, but it goes away. And the Democrats and the liberals, they're like COVID. They're there forever, like herpes. Right? They stick around, and they penetrate every part of you, and they damage your organs and your brain. And they omeletify your neurons, and they cause 140% increases in your colon cancer over time, just slowly eating you away. And so that's why it's like people don't like it. In America, it's not fun. And if you're like a middle class, especially white American, that isn't identifying as a conservative, or doesn't like to be doesn't like to just, you're not so much of a might makes right sort of person. You want to think of yourself as a good person. You're a moderate white liberal. Then it's scary to have Republicans in charge. It freaks you out, which is what I see lots of people. That's what lots of people are doing right now. They're doomering, freaking out. And but this is actually amazing for Africa. This is amazing for a lot of people. Actually, it's actually really great for indigenous people. It's not great for it's like, shouldn't say it's like great to have Trump and Elon, but as indigenous people, people actually show up. More people show up to events. More people show up to stop pipelines. More people show up to actual protests and stuff. Right? We get actually more backing when there's I'm a native Hawaiian. When there is when the U.S. and the collective West, which are racist, capitalist, colonialist hellholes, show who they are. Right? When the U.S. can't pretend like it cares about human rights, freedom, democracy, indigenous people, like it loves women, it cares about LGBTQ. It doesn't care about LGBTQ plus rights. Otherwise, it wouldn't be bombing people all over the Middle East, all over Asia, starting wars, backing far right extremists in Ukraine that hurt. They wouldn't be putting rebranded head chopping extreme far rightists that cut women's heads off, right? Like HTS in Syria, right? The liberals did that, right? The liberals did that. That wasn't right. So that's where and I talked about them recently as well, right? How are the PALESTINEs LGBTQ plus rights when they're all dead, starving, right? But so that's why it's actually the best time ever when there's right wing, and it's gonna hurt more. It hurts. It can hurt more for middle class white Americans. It always hurts to be black or brown or indigenous or especially if you're doing what's right for your people, for the world ultimately. As a native Hawaiian seeking the end of U.S. colonial capitalist GENOCIDAL occupation in Hawaii, right? But if you're white, it's like, oh my God, like I'm starting to feel like I might be slightly oppressed by the U.S. government, I feel like I might be oppressed a bit. I'm not saying that doesn't happen, but like, that does happen for Gen Z and Gen Millennial and Gen Alpha. It's definitely the quality of life has gotten worse. If you are an elderly person, even if you are white, you could lose everything from your healthcare costs, but um overpriced healthcare, and that's not something that's like unique to Republicans. The administrations. That's not something that's unique to them. That's done by the Democrats. And you can see this statistically. It's like empirically, rationally, statistically, you can see that there's actually more damage done when there is a liberal in charge, because they get away with it and nobody does anything about it. This might change if if a full coup of the U.S. happens. Who knows? We can't say what exactly will happen. If the U.S. just goes, we're done playing back and forth. The U.S. is not going to be even a pretend democracy anymore. We're not going to pretend to be a democracy. But the thing is, that would be extremely incompetent. And then actually, paradoxically, if I said this before, if the U.S. banned elections, right, in the short term, it would not be fun. It could get more violent. But the United States would get the total systems changed that it actually needs. This is what the Chinese ask all the time on Little Red Note. By the way, one way of getting organized and prepared is like before the U.S. bans it, go get Xiao Hongshu Little Red Note, Red Book, and go talk to the Chinese and ask them, like the actual Chinese people, and learn about the real world. Okay? Learn about the real world that isn't controlled by CIA, USAID, imperialist information mind controllers. Okay? That is just, everything is just a Truman Show, Matrix, false reality. Exit the Matrix and go talk to a Little Red Note, find out what's really happening in the earth before your Clownarchy ban, an actual global village discussion forum, right? Which is not, there's no Twitter, this YouTube, what this crap. I'm almost like, I don't even want to make YouTube videos sometimes because of how crap it is. You can't even say words on this thing anymore. I can say whatever I want on a Little Red Note. Right? Other than ridiculous things like, I want to overthrow the country whose platform I'm using. That's actually the best country in the world. Why would I want to do that? And also, or if you want to do Nazi salutes and you want to be a MAGA far right winger, and just call for extermination of, just call for the most racist things, then you get kicked off the platform. A whole ton of, like, about a bunch of MAGA people, or not, let's just say MAGA people. There's liberal racists, there's Democrat racists, there's all kind of MAGA racists, there's just all kind of horrible people. There's people just like gross, just posting gross, sexist stuff, just in general. If you want to be a CIA agent, you get kicked off a Little Red Note. Actually, if you catch a CIA agent and report it to the Communist Party of China, right, that's doing imperial capitalist, coups around the world, and especially in their country. If you catch one, you can get I think it's like 100,000, 500 or 100,000 yuan reward. So that's about, it's like $15,000. So, I want to catch a bunch of CIA agents. I want to catch a bunch of U.S. imperial rulers and turn them into the Communist Party. So remember, you only have, who knows how long you have to catch CIA agents and turn them into the Communist Party and destroy the capitalist system worldwide on Red Note. Anyways. But yeah, there's an actual forum there where you can talk about things for real. In the West, there's no this legitimate discussion. This is like infinite bullshit artistry as everything declines, and eventually, getting back to the topic, the collapse will continue. I mean, I'm very sorry to report that it's going to continue. That's good news. You have to see the good news of that, right? You have to pay attention to this, but don't doom her out about it, because the collapse of the United States and the collective West, economically, socially, social fabric, politically, this is not going to be, it's going to be painful. I have to live under this crappy U.S. colony, forced military occupation called Hawaii. Or Hawaii is a country under U.S. military occupation. And this is going to suck a lot, Hawaii is the most expensive. You think it's hard? Hawaii is by far the most expensive, most military occupied, most unlivable, highest rent, lowest income, or highest rent payments to income, median income ratio. It's the worst place, right? So it's gonna suck, but I'm gonna stick it out here because we need to get rid of the U.S. illegal genocidal military occupation. right? We have to have land back in Hawaii so that we can get on the path. The Aina, the land, can get back on the correct path, and we can move on to socialism with Hawaiian characteristics in RICS and the Belt and Road, outside of the right openly just destroying the earth, U.S. empire and everything that it stands for. It's settler colonial. I mean, I talk about that stuff so much. I'm not going to go through all of its crimes, and its current greatest evil that it is. So everybody in the United States, I mean, whether you're indigenous, you're black, you're white, your parents migrated, you migrated in, you're trying to migrate out, whatever you're doing. If you're going to stick around in the United States, you should know that it is going to fall apart. It's falling. It's not going to. It is falling apart. The rate at which the United States economically begins to disintegrate, the rate at which the rich are just going to try to hand and fist steal. That's basically what this is the U.S. oligarchy. Elon is like, he likes the press, but the reality is, I mean, the U.S. is run by the world's richest people. It's a pay-to-play capitalist plutocratic system. If you have money to buy, it's a for-sale government. So if you have money, then they'll do what you say. So it's not just Elon. It's just all of the richest people in the United States. Sometimes they fight amongst themselves, right? They fight amongst themselves, but all of the Congress, Democrat, Republican, all take money from the same billionaires and corporations, right? Like, you have to be sober, clear-eyed, not drunk on, Western disinformation, which is everything in the West, right? The Congress, if the Democrats in particular, right, and some Republicans actually believe what they say, Trump is new Hitler, Trump is fascist, the democracy dies under Doge. If you really believe that, right, you would do everything in your power physically to stop that. They don't believe that. That's why right, and what people pointed out, right? This is the joke, right? This is a real coup, okay? This is a real coup attempt. Remember South Korea, okay? South Korean soldiers enter, South Koreans, climb into the building. Trying to get the video that, or the image, yeah. South Korea, during the Yoon Suk Yeol in South Korea, right? His attempt to take the whole country, turn it into military dictatorship. And it's not just, there's a reason why he wanted to do that, because the United States wanted to Ukrainify, right? To start millions of people dying in a massive war between North and South Korea, right? It wanted to proxy warify, right? And destroy Korea for the benefit of U.S. empire. To quagmire for China, just as Russia was a quagmire for Ukraine was a quagmire for Russia. And it's not just an attempted quagmire for Russia that backfired, but millions of over 1 million people have died, right? Tens of millions of people displaced, economy in shambles, just catastrophically evil, bad stuff happened, right? And Democrats don't care. They did that. They totally did that. Democrats way more fascist than the Republicans at the end of the day. They get so much more done, as I'd like to point out. South Korea was that, right? The South Koreans were scaling their walls, right? They were climbing in. You remember the footage? There was South Korean, everyone in South Korea gets some amount of military training, right? And there were South Korean, older guys that were attacking the soldiers, turning the guns on them, right? So they were actually, the South Koreans were attacking their own military. Now they didn't shoot yet because I think the younger troops that were there, they were kind of bewildered by what was happening. I don't even know what exactly we're doing, and they were older, and some of them basically everybody is military trained. So one of the problems when you have so many military trained people is the civilians can easily undo your coup, right? But the South Koreans were actually breaking the windows, smashing the sides of the building to dive in, fighting the soldiers. The South Korean government was fighting, South Korean officials were fighting soldiers to stop Yoon Suk Yeol, which is a U.S. Democrat, Biden-backed administration, but I want to point out. I mean, bipartisan, but they're all supported by the United States, all Democrat and Republican. Everything South Korea does is just like Hawaii. South Korea is a colonial occupation. It's just a puppet. It's a tool of the United States. Like, we're just an unsinkable aircraft carrier to send aircraft carriers and F-35s and weapons and bombs and artillery and machine guns to South Korea, right? To try to kill millions of Asians, right? Just to cause problems for China. That's the purpose of the Korean War I and attempted Korean War II. That's a real coup, right? If it's a real coup or if there's a real coup attempt, right? And you have some amount of people that are actually trying to stop a real fascist takeover, then you have those people, right, are like really drastically trying their best to stop it. I mean, that's if you have any morality in your country at all, or any kind of sense of self-preservation, or any kind of sense of ethics, right? Now, of course, the United States has no ethics, right? The United States is the dumpster of humanity, as I like to point out. It's the sewer, So when everyone's soul dies and they take a shit, and what remains of the humanity goes out through into the toilet bowl, right? The toilet bowl and all of the plumbing, right? It leads through these aircraft, right? They're called American Boeing planes. People get on those planes, right? And those are humanity's sewers. They leave Brazil in the form of Jair Bolsonaro, and they go to U.S., right? They're like Ghani from Afghanistan, right? And this is the human sewer, and they all come to America, which is the worst place on the earth. And they try to restore hellscape to their country, capitalist imperialist hellscape to their country through the United States. So the United States Congress is not trying to wrestle its way into. It's not even the guy. You saw the video. There's just a guy. Let's see if I can get that video real fast. There's just a guy. He has like a rainbow band-aid on the back of his neck. I mean, this guy, like, this is not the most. He's like a pencil neck rainbow band-aid guy standing there like this. Like this, he's like a really bad actor in a really bad Hollywood screenplay called The United States Government, right? Which is it's all a sham. It's all theater. They should have got like somebody that looks like the Undertaker. Elon, but Elon is an incompetent clownarch. He should have hired somebody that was really scary and buff. Elon should have hired the Liver King or some right wing bro. I eat bull balls to make me look buff or something, right? The last phase of neurofication of the American dream. You should have taken some podcast bro that spends 85 hours a day at the gym, right? To come intimidate, look at least look intimidating. So it looks like the U.S. government, right? The U.S. Democrats did something. They don't even look like they did anything, right? Because Elon owns both parties, right? Elon is you should make the WWE of U.S. Democrat Republican, Congress versus Trump administration. You should make it look more realistic. And in WWE, people actually they're guys that are secretly queer that are all getting really intimate with their feelings and staring in each other's eyes deeply. But because there's so much crowd, it doesn't look like it's a telenovela. You should get a bunch of WWE guys, right? I mean, Trump did do WWE, so he knows what he knows drama, right? He did a little bit of WWE. You have to make it look like everyone in the U.S. government doesn't work for billionaire oligarch, horrible psychopaths, right? But they're just kind of standing around like this, and it's okay, we're all paid to stand around and pretend like we're trying to stop Elon Musk and Donald Trump, right? It's pathetic. The thing is, with the illegal U.S.-backed liberal and conservative South Korean actual dictatorship, unlike North Korea, which is a cool communist-based place which has human rights and freedom, the South Korean government is not acting. They actually, if they had not stopped the South Korean president, South Korea would have been plunged into the absolute abyss. Now, they're having a bad time because of the U.S. imperialist capitalist occupation for decades. It's caused hundreds of thousands of people to be massacred under actual far-right dictatorship. the many leaders, most South Korean leaders, they end in the horrible lawsuits and criminal investigations, or they often, because of how corrupt they are, right? It's the South Korean government is an extension of the U.S. government, hyper corrupt, but it's not in the U.S. and it's full of Asians, so America cares even less about them. So, but in South Korea, they're not acting. They actually had a coup. They had to stop it, otherwise there would have been because Yoon Suk Yeol was planning to have South Korean soldiers wearing North Korean uniforms, right, with North Korean insignias, having North Korean disguised vehicles, start a false flag to begin a war, right? To have South Koreans dressed as North Korean soldiers firing in the direction of South Korean forces to start a North-South war. The United States, at minimum, knew about, if not support and back that entire operation. So that was a real extreme present danger to all of Korea and the South Korea in this case, because it would have been their government that would have initiated all of them dying. And the Koreans don't want to kill their cousins and their aunts and their nephews and their brothers, because that's what it is. It's a country cut in half. And so they knew they had to stop it. That's what a real actual coup looks like. It's when the U.S. gives money to far right extremists and neoliberal imperial corporate flunkies to basically, right, like they did in Ukraine, Maidan coup, Victoria Nuland, Tony Blinken, etc. Democrat and Republican bipartisan coup, John McCain, Republican, and Nuland, who's in the Democrat Biden's administration. They were both working with that. They're both, have been involved in, supported, and give massive amounts of, been part of getting massive amounts of money, weapons, etc., and political backing to the far right extreme coup, far right extremist takeover of Ukraine that resulted in the most ridiculous, nonsensical, failed proxy war, extremely damaging proxy war. But failed nonetheless, because Russia is now stronger than ever, is beating all the EU countries and the United States in economics, in growth, and also is 4%, and also in military might. Its military has gotten stronger, and the U.S. and NATO have gotten weaker, and that's great actually. I mean, that's one good result. The war is horrible, yes, but the great result is the United States is destroying itself, and that's really great. So wow, there's like a lot of people watching right now. Thank you for watching. I don't know why there's 20 people. But the U.S. Clownarchy getting the popcorn organized. Let me come back to that. So the United States government doesn't have any interest. I should say, the United States politicians, none of them have any morals. Obviously, they have no real power. Right? They just do whatever the sometimes chaotic, world's richest, most horrible people tell them to. That is why they are standing around, right, like a bunch of clueless Goombas, right, just like waddling around. They're like lost puppies, right? Let me see if I can get the video of that. U.S. government takeover by Elon. That'll probably give it to me. See. I think it was Department of Education. Yeah, here you go.
Excuse me.
Are you prepared to stand here all night if we decide to stay?
I don't know if you can see that.
All right. Well, you just stay right there. Then.
What is this? What is this? What is Rainbow Band-Aid Man? Rainbow Band-Aid, he looks like Larry Ellison or Donald Trump's like second, third cousin who needed a job to be a paid actor to pretend like America, right, is having some kind of intense struggle inside of itself. Like, what is this? This is not a believable.
Are you prepared to?
This is not a believable fight between the Congress and Trump and Elon and Doge.
Stand here all night if we decide to stay.
I don't believe this.
I guess, yeah.
All right, well, you just stay right there. Then. You just stay and stand.
Why are you letting us go to that desk like we were able to do last year?
All right, again, compared to this, right? I mean, actually trying to bust into the building. This is not for real. The U.S. the Democrats don't give a shit. The Democrats are like, oh, maybe we'll get some money from the Republicans. The Democrats, let's not forget, they just committed live stream mass unaliving of little children. Right? Everybody knows that, right? So everybody knows who the Democrats are. I feel like the Democrats in my game Neofeud 2, the Democrats and Republicans merged into one party called the Demopublicans. So I hope that this doesn't happen before I finish my game. Okay, let me finish Neofeud 2. Okay, U.S. Let me finish Neofeud 2. Then you can merge the Democrats and Republicans into one party. But that is where it's gonna go probably, because the United States is gonna have a harder and harder time pretending like it has a democracy. At the same time, the U.S. needs it has to be balanced. The United States clownarchy has to balance the U.S. clownarchy has to balance the needs of it has to balance the need to keep on extracting money from everywhere it possibly can, right? And one of the secrets is that the United States doesn't need to extract any money, right? This is gonna temporarily, while the United States planetary imperial hegemon has world reserve currency, it did not need to, and as long as it does not need to make money, right? As I made a video about that several streams back. The United States can simply print money if it needs to, right? The U.S. can print money through its central bank. It prints U.S. dollars, right? There's like Ben Norchett and Michael Hudson and people like that frequently will talk about this, but let me see if I can find that one. The U.S. can simply print money, controlled thing. It can print money and it can give that money to whoever it needs to. It can give it to Elon. It can give it to, Facebook, Instagram. It can give it to, BlackRock. It gives it to all the corporate big tech entities. What matters the most is the control of the population, ultimately. As long as you have planetary, the majority of the planet under control or under your foreseeable control, or some without losing vast quantities of the earth, right? You print, so whether United States central bank, this is one of the lies about this whole Doge thing, right? The Doge, we're gonna shore up the balance sheet. The United States can print infinite dollars. Doesn't matter how much money it prints, or didn't. It might come into play, but it's not into play yet, right? The United States could print 65 quadrillion dollars, right? As long as it can force at least its vassals or those in its orbits, right, to use those dollars, to buy up those dollars. I mean, it's not going to print that much money because it's not conducive, right? But what matters the most is not how much money is circulating throughout the United States and throughout the world. What matters is whether people are using the U.S. dollars and whether those dollars can be used, right? As countries have to settle their international transactions in U.S. dollars, world reserve currency, the SWIFT payment system, blah, 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 right? Then no matter how much money the U.S. Without going too extreme, but it's already very extreme. It's $35 trillion of debt. If the U.S. was a normal country, it would have exploded, or it would have gone bankrupt a long time ago, like in Argentina, etc. But the United States doesn't care about that, right? It can print as much money as it wants. So this whole Elon has to go through the Department of the Education. U.S. has to go through the Department of Social Security. The U.S. has to cut food stamps. The U.S. has to cut this and that. The U.S. doesn't need to cut anything, right? The U.S. prints money and gives it to Elon Musk, right? It's called central bank types 1 with, 15 zeros, right? And it gives a whole big slice of that central bank printed cake straight to Elon's corporate buybacks, right? How do you think Tesla stays afloat despite Elon making malfunctioning Cybertrucks that have rusted in less than 9 months because of his idiotic decision to use untreated steel, right? How can Elon keep making money, Tesla making less than 1% of all actual vehicles, but being evaluated above Toyota, GM, and all these other car companies combined, right? How is that possible? Because the United States doesn't need, Elon is one of the least budget conscious, one of the least, right? Because this whole Doge, Department of Government official, Elon is the most inefficient clownarch in history of the planet Earth. He's the biggest waste. I mean, if you analyze Elon from like how much profit, how much revenue he has increased companies that he has run by based on his own actions, right? Elon is worth negative $1 trillion at least, right? he broke Twitter. He materially, you can see where Twitter's valuation dropped. The people coming to Twitter dropped, right? The advertisers, McDonald's didn't want to sell French fries, and Disney was like, we're not going to sell any more Mickey Mouse shows on your Twitter because you're making it a cesspool of right wing nonsense, and it's getting worse. So less people are using it. I mean, in the West, you only have cesspool. You only have cesspool. You have Clownarchy, and you have the public auditoriums are all fucking cesspools, unfortunately. So, but anyways, that's why I like going on Red Note more. But I'm talking to Westerners now, so that's why I feel sad today. I'm sorry if you're a Westerner. Good luck changing your system and making it less a shithole. So the United States, Elon has ruined every company. When he made his Teslas, he like. I mean, I've talked about these examples so many times in the past. Go watch some of my past streams specific about Elon. He's been wrong about COVID. He said COVID would be done in April 2020. Totally wrong. He donated 2 broken CPAP machines during the start of it when it was supposed to be people needed ventilators. So this guy is an absolute clown. He's the absolute worst of the worst, right? And he has the largest net worth of anybody, right, on the earth, right? But it's not because of his talent. It's because he gets free infinite money. So the whole Doge thing, this is all just a charade. This is all a farce, right? This is all a wild eagle chase for American eagle silver dollars, right? Oh, we're gonna save our budget. Elon, he spends half of his money, right? Elon spends half of his money that he has trying to get people to think he's funny on Twitter when he never is. He apparently Elon almost had to have a wellness check because he was going into complete nervous breakdown when he tried to do a comedy routine in San Francisco, right? Because that's how horrible he is. He's such a loser, right? So this guy, I mean, everybody knows that though. I don't need to. Many people have talked about this. It's interesting because the Chinese don't actually realize that because I think they don't see on Red Note. They only see Western. Well, many of the Chinese, especially young ones, they see only like the Western tailored version of him. They don't see like who he actually is, right? But that's why Red Note is great. The Chinese government the Chinese in general are benefiting greatly because now American citizens can go, yeah, no, we all hate this guy. Yeah, no, we all hate the United States, right? We're all starving to death, living in our parents' basement as they run out of healthcare, or as they get cancer, and then we lose our house and we live in a car, right? So that's really great. And Elon is also being revealed for who he is. It's, for some people's minds, it's been a bit masked, and so that's really great. But anyway, so more people know that. And so the point I was trying to get to before I sidetracked myself was that Elon is not going to shore up the U.S. government. In case anybody was curious, he's not gonna balance the budget. He's not auditing really anything. He's just trying to figure out. Well, he's doing a lot of things. A lot of this is for show. To make it seem like the United States, for people who voted Trump, or the people that voted Elon and Trump and that team, to make it seem like they're gonna stick it to DEI, to woke, blah blah blah. There's a lot of racist, bigoted angles to that. And we're gonna stick it to the big government. We're gonna get rid of the people that are useless eaters, right? In this kind of eugenicist sort of sense. Elon definitely is white supremacist, eugenicist, fascist, Sig Heiling all over the place. But him and several leaders and his friends that just got smacked down by the black working class in I forget where that was, right? There was a big Nazi parade outside, and they all get their butts beat by like a bunch of brothers from the hood. Just like don't you know Hitler died? Like he been dead since the 40s. So there's elements of that. Elon is definitely said and done many things that are on that side of, he's an apartheidist like his daddy, and his grandpa, and that is an element to this. But and a lot of what he's doing is for show. But also Elon knows that he needs Indian and he needs Chinese, right? Elon knows somewhere in his very limited cluster of neurons, I hope Elon, if he gets a few more COVID, rounds, he's gonna have a harder and harder time keeping the handful of neurons that he has going. Elon knows though he needs his Chinese. He said it openly, right, to Vivek Ramaswamy. I need brown Indians and I need Chinese and I need Asians to work with H-1B visas to work in my tech companies, or because I need them, because I want to pay them less, and there's not there is a limited amount of talent in the United States, and I got to pay them more, and I just don't want to, right? So it's got remember there's a whole MAGA blow up. This is why Elon he like Trump, he is a lot like Trump. Elon also said, I love Trump as much as any straight guy could love another man or something like that. And Trump was asked about that. That was really funny. They are very similar. They care about themselves. They have the not cool kid syndrome. They have this like, I feel like Elon couldn't get a date in high school, and he's still mad about that. I mean, that's most of Silicon Valley. It's the revenge of high school nerd politics. It's all the Urkels. It is like what Vivek said, like I pointed out a few weeks back. It's all these weird nerds in high school. Now, Elon wasn't particularly smart. He was just like, he was into, tech and games and Deus Ex and science fiction and stuff like that. He was really into. He's really into Blade Runner, and that's why he's producing a Blade Runner dystopia. He's really into cyberpunk games. That's why he's making he made a Cybertruck look like a Deus Ex 1990s vehicle, or like a RoboCop looking thing. He was a dorky guy. I wouldn't say nerd, because he wasn't very good at studying. Otherwise, he would be smarter than he is. He doesn't really care about actually acquiring knowledge and skills, but he was into nerdy things that will be deemed nerdy, and he's just mad about that, I think. And he needs to seem cool again, or he wants to seem cool for the first time, but he never will. He will always fail at that, and he will die a sad, uncool, ultra rich war criminal. Very sad. Trump, Trump also, like, he was the people, like, he got a lot of airtime in the 80s, like I pointed out, but he's still like he's still not cool amongst the billionaire class, right? They see him as like this kind of buffoon, right? The bigger bankers in New York, they're like, oh, the Trump, the guy's, he was made to look good for a little bit, but now he's just like, he's kind of a disgrace. He failed at his steak thing. He failed at his, he's torpedoed like 4 separate businesses. Now he's a convicted felon. I mean, everyone in the United States of any kind of power is all bigger war criminals than Trump, most of them, right? They've done far worse things than Trump. Biden is, responsible for millions and millions of people's deaths and millions of black and brown people's mass incarceration in the United States. So, Trump has a long way to go to acquire a rap sheet with as many mountains of skulls as Biden does. He's been U.S. government for like decades and decades. Trump just got started. This is only Trump's 5th year in the U.S. government, right? Biden has been massacring the earth, Mother Nature, black and brown and Asian people, and maintaining global imperialism for the last. Biden has been doing that for 30 plus years. Biden has all, but Biden is like, Biden has like a, he's just sitting on a mountain of black and brown and Asian and indigenous skulls, right? That's what Biden is. So Elon, he's also newer to this game, and so Biden is like, he's like the least funny of Clownarchs. Rest in hell. When Biden dies soon. Anyways, so let me move on from just dissing these people to get more back to the point. But yeah, so I think that so when it comes to the actual accelerated collapse, one way in which this Clownarchy is becoming, it's already been kind of a joke, but it's becoming more and more and more. And when I say Clownarchy, I mean like I mean a government by it, a government by the antagonist from the TV film, from the films It. I like getting definitions because I like looking up these stormtrooper words because all Western language is colonizer language. Comic entertainer, especially one in a circus wearing a traditional costume and exaggerated makeup. So, Trump wears exaggerated makeup. Elon has a lot of odd plastic surgery. I don't know. It's very strange. Like, he definitely has a lot of hair plugs. He's a foolish, incompetent person. These are people that are entertaining, right? The Elon and Trump and all Western governments are clownarchies to some extent because they're all entertainment. They're not real governments, right? The government is the plutocracy behind that always. Whether that's European kings, whether that's American democracy, fake democracy, British Parliament, South Korea, obviously. Anybody that calls itself a free democratic country and is approved by the West is obviously it's just a clownarchy. It's not a real government. It's just it's a Shakespearean play. That's what people feel good. Like in Shakespeare's time, people come sit down. They all know the difference between feudal era and today's era. People would a bunch of the poor would sit down, right? And they'd have their one tomato, right, that they were allotted by the queen when they're dying from famines because of inefficient distribution of resources in the European barbaric ages. More obviously barbaric ages. There are always barbaric ages in Europe and the Euro settler colonies like the United States. But the Europeans, they would throw tomatoes at the actors who are entertaining them, right? Or like, Roman, as they always know, oh yeah, well, there's those fancy, rich, capitalists / feudalists that are sitting in those upper seats with all the money and all the power. And, and we're all watching Shakespeare, with a sense of national unity, despite how horrible our treatment is down here. And, we're living like less than 30 years, swimming in our own poop a lot of the time because we don't have health practices. Not that the elites, I mean, they usually don't swim in their own poop. They choose individually not to wipe their ass, in Europe. But, they get to at least wear nice clothes. But we are down here, but it's all, they need the entertainment just as the Romans needed, right? The Romans needed gladiatorial practices. The Romans needed, the Colosseum, guns and, or not guns. They needed swords flying, cutting people's limbs off, Christians being fed to lions, right? Animals killing each other. And it's very much like, isn't real, right? Having dogs, animals sicked on innocent people, animals killing each other. This is historical. This is Western culture. For the entertainment of, isn't real soldiers, just as the Romans had entertainment of all their masses. I mean, it also entertained the emperor, right, Caesar, and also but more importantly, it entertained all of the poor masses in the Western, capitalist hellscapes like Rome, or London, right, where they also had, they always had some kind of TV plays. They need entertainment for people, right? So, and then the U.S. government, right, infotainment, CNN, MSNBC, this back and forth, watching Fox News and MSNBC like they're not funded by the same people. Rachel Maddow versus Tucker Carlson, or Rachel Maddow, I don't know who's on TV now. Rachel McConnell versus Fox News anchor. I'm confusing my Democrats and Republicans now, but they're all funded by the same people. Literally, the Fox News and MSNBC anchor, like they're good friends. The MSNBC and the Fox CEOs are good friends. Look at Jimmy Carter's funeral, where we got Obama and other Democrats just hanging out, sharing lively jokes, just hugging Donald Trump and the Republicans like they're the best of friends, right? They all love each other. They're all part of the same class. Everything about the U.S. government is a sham. It's entertainment. It's the gladiatorial Colosseum. It's a Shakespearean play. The difference between the Shakespearean play is the poor paupers of Britain in the Elizabethan times, when they're watching, a poor British actor, right, play the part, because they're all poor. They're not elites. They're actors. Watching a poor actress play the part of Juliet. Oh, Romeo, wherefore art thou Romeo, right? The poor actor and the poor audience members, right? They all know that they are oppressed, subservient classes in an unjust system, but they're suffering that and they don't know what to do about it. and they're, they're just, well, that's life. We're peasant serfs working. We have to give most of our resources to these rich kings and queens so they can have all the food and play all day and have palaces and send us into needless wars of their own vanity and attempts for territorial expansion. And that's just Europe. It's this Euro feudal, barbaristic, unjust, hierarchical horribleness. But we get to watch these shows, right? It's called the Shakespearean play. Today, America has Shakespearean plays, right? It's called everything. It's not just Netflix and garbage like billionaire philanthropist arms dealer Playboy propaganda like Iron Man, right? Which is about techno king Shakespeare, right? To make them seem great. The thing about today is that Americans will watch, but also all of Congress. When Bernie Sanders gets up and goes, "We're going to shore America up. We're going to have health care and housing," he's just saying that to make you feel like he cares about you, right? Then he votes to send all your money to go kill people, right, around the world that he could have, he's not going to do anything. And or Biden is like, "We're going to stop fascism." By funding, Netanyahu, who is doing a fascism. By stopping Yoon Suk Yeol, that's doing a fascism, right? Most of the fascism is not in America. Most of the world, only 4% of the world is in America. The liberals get 95% of the world's fascism done. The Republicans and Trump, they don't even know how to keep that going. They're losers at that. They're going to lose big time. That's why Africa is celebrating. The Arab Acts of Resistance is celebrating Trump. China, when I go on a red note, I'm not even kidding you. The Chinese are like, we love Trump. Trump is our man because we know Trump will destroy the United States' ability to maintain empire. He will crush America's hegemony. They all love it. I'm not even joking. Go on Red Note and see what they think about Trump. They're like the average Chinese, like Guangxi, Shandong, Yunnan province, right? The only ones that don't like Trump is like weird, propagandized, twinkified, not twink, like in the gender. I'm talking about Twinkyified, like white inside, yellow outside, Taiwanese. It's the only ones that are kind of a little bit worried about Trump, right? These people have been turned into white Democrats in Taiwan by NED, USAID, but they're losing their funding. So that's really great that the USAID is destroyed. How is the US going to get psychological yeah, some people go, well, they're going to just change the name. They're going to give it somewhere else. But the Trumpian, the Marco Rubian, Marco Rubianites, this we're going to go back to the old school CIA. It's not 1970. China is not 40 times or to 100 times poorer and smaller than the United States now. You can't just go around the world and just be like, oh yeah, we're going to rule the world. You're going to rule. You're gonna rule your own collapsing empire. You're just gonna get your ass kicked out of the entire rest of the global majority in BRICS. BRICS is just gonna. This is why it's like China is celebrating Trump's victory, because it's like, not because they like he's a racist, horrible person that's annoying, but like he is gonna make him and Elon and Marco Rubio and that Republican, all of Mar-a-Lagos, they're gonna make the stupidest decisions ever. They're already doing it. They're sanctioning, tariff sanction. Trump just said, Spain is part of BRICS, and the BRICS are trying to get out of our US dollar. We're going to tariff them so hard. Everything about that sentence was so absolutely completely wrong. It was even wronger than Tony Blinken. It was wronger than even Joe Biden, when Joe Biden isn't completely comatose or walking around zombified, reanimated corpse injected with 2,000 pounds of cocaine. Joe Biden was slightly less wrong than that sentence. Spain is not even a part of a BRIC. It's not even a part of BRICS, right? Tariffing, it's like you're gonna stop people from getting off the U.S. dollar by making it harder for people to transact business with the U.S. that makes the dollar. It just everything about that is so wrong, and that's great. U.S. is going to destroy itself. Trump is going to destroy the United States, and that's the best thing ever. Its power, everything is going bye-bye. So Americans, it's your time to do your part, right? Ask the Chinese go on the Red Note and ask the Chinese what you need to do, right? They'll tell you. Now, it's not going to happen overnight. It's going to take time. The U.S. is not going to, it's accelerating, but it's still not going to happen tomorrow. It's going to take some time. U.S. is going to unravel. It's going to unravel. China was the 5th poorest country in the world when it had what it needed to have, right? I'll give you a hint. It involved little red books. It was actually, in China, it's called, Mao Zedong's a collection of Mao Zedong's quotations and sayings. It's not called the Little Red Book, but um, it will take time. That's why people have to organize now, because the United States is going bye bye. And so and that's where things are really heading. So and the difference is that when I come back to my Shakespeare metaphor, the United States and the Western peoples of the 20th century and 21st century, right? They are, when they watch their U.S. government, when they watch C-SPAN, when they look at the government on Twitter, YouTube videos, right? When they turn on CNN because for some reason they like imbibing cyanide for their brain cells, right? It's kind of like breathing air inside of an unmasked Safeway or Walmart or anywhere, because everyone's still just spreading 50,000 viruses around. When you turn on your CNN or your Fox or your MSNBC or your YouTube or your Twitter or your certainly like without like radioactive a hazmat suit on to make sure you're not following all the wrong people, it's really hard. When you turn on Western anything, really anything, even New York Times, CNN, it doesn't matter what you read, just reading a novel written by somebody that got published in the United States for the most part. When you watch an American movie, even, but when you tune into U.S. politics, people think they are, right? They're doing democracy, right? They think they're interacting, and they're thinking about their issues, and then they're going to vote, they're going to protest, they're gonna participate in their vibrant democracy, in which they are one of the many that rule. The people, we the people are the we the people governed by, for, and of the people of the United States. Blah 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 blah. Right? Shakespeare's time, people didn't believe that. Right? In the Roman Colosseum, the Roman commoners don't believe that. Oh yeah, what we're gonna vote Caesar out, and we're gonna have a good Caesar in, right? We're gonna have a good Caesar, right? That does a Caesar salute. We're not gonna have this Nazi. Oh, I'm sorry. Wait, the Caesar salute is the Nazi salute. I'm sorry. Elon pretended like, oh, I was just doing a Caesar salute. That isn't anyway. In Romans' time, they didn't believe that the masses of the people were doing anything but getting entertainment to make their lives slightly less miserable, as the Roman oligarchy, like the U.S. Empire, that was plundering North Africa, Central and West Europe, and West Asia, right? Taking the olives from Palestine and the Levant, taking North African agriculture and slaves, and taking other agricultural and mined products from all over Europe, right? Through the roads that they built. Well, they did build the roads, but the roads are there for plunder, right? Just like U.S. roads in Iraq and in Sudan, Congo, and Rwanda, right? Shout out also. I was talking to a African decolonialist. It was educating people about what's happening in Rwanda versus. I watched Breakthrough News also for that. That's like one of very few Western sources you can get that's of any value. Loosely affiliated with Party for Socialism and Liberation. But it's pointing out that actually what's happening is the U.S. and Western-backed forces in Rwanda is actually part of what's causing all the damage and chaos and keeping the plunder going inside of Congo and Sudan. Along with, obviously, there's many different Western forces that are all coming in, but it's all Western colonialism. Anyway, that was happening on Shahangshu. Anyways, so the Romans, like the Americans and the Europeans historically over the last 500 years, and certainly the Americans today, they have been plundering. They've been plundering that whole North African, European region, but the Romans, during the Roman capitalist, imperialist, barbaric time, right, which is also based upon genocide, right, of the Germanic peoples, many. There were hundreds and hundreds of different peoples, right? The Basque people that has the world's largest one of the world's largest worker-owned cooperatives, and they're the most on the path of socialism in Europe. I would argue, Mondragon. The Basque they're an extremely mountainous region that they're in. It was very difficult for the Romans to successfully conquer them. As part of why they don't have these broken imperialist, capitalist, feudalist, Euroid characteristics that much of the rest of France, Britain, Germany, and Italy, etc. They all have these. Obviously, Rome was right inside of Italy. They have all these characteristics, but the the Romans of that time, they didn't believe that when they watched the Christians get slaughtered, right? Even if the Romans watched a play, right? Because they had stories they told about their gods and Saturn, right, and Jupiter, which much of this was aped and borrowed largely from the Greeks. But when the Romans watched a play, when the Romans watched mass evisceration and entrailification of various peoples in the Colosseum, they didn't believe that they were going to change their government, right? They simply suffered, like the European, they suffered under unjust rulers that sometimes frequently starved them, actually. A lot of Romans were very hungry and impoverished for the whole time. Certainly the slaves were that helped build the Roman Empire and helped build roads that they moved their trucks on and brought the central bank printed quantitative easing currency of the Romans' time. It's called the denarius, right? But instead of printing infinite amounts of money and using fiat currency to get exorbitant reserve currency privilege like the U.S. does today, the Romans had reserve currency status, forcing everyone to use denarius to render unto Caesar, right, through the silver coins, which they would clip. They would fill the silver with iron or less precious material, right, and having a less total silver content to get more and more, right, olives, right, get more Palestinian olives, get more North African slaves, and get more West European produce and resources, right, into the Roman Empire, right, wine, etc. You get more of that coming in with less total silver. That's what the U.S. is doing, right? You print infinite amounts of money, buy back your shares. You use a dollar. The dollar goes further, so you can buy more products from the global South. You get more TVs, smartphones, right? It's just exactly what the Roman Empire did. And the people at the end of the Roman Empire were getting poorer and poorer and poorer and poorer and poorer and poorer, right? They never actually did a revolution, also, right? It's very important to remember. When the Roman Empire collapsed, it didn't end really with any uprising that brought about communism or anything much better, really. It dissolved into from one extremely powerful imperial centralized system of horror exacted upon people in that neighborhood of the Mediterranean, Europe, North Africa, West Asia, and it broke into a dark age of smaller, less concentrated power, smaller, horrible governments and oligarchs with less concentrated power, and it moved more in the direction of like dynastic inheritance in the feudal system. Some of the Chinese go, America is entering its warlord era. It's entering it's entering its old feudal era, right? Or it gets confusing, but it's definitely the U.S. One thing that might happen in the future is U.S. could balkanize. I've brought that up many times. U.S. Civil War could happen. It already is arguably partially happening. But the American population is not quite hungry enough yet. It's not quite poor enough yet. Now I'm not saying what I want is for Americans to, watch Roman Colosseum bread and circus until they get so poor and so screwed that nothing happens, and then America just becomes a bunch of small little pockets of, like the kingdom of Amazon and the kingdom of Tesla and Elon, the techno king of like this part of Texas, and Jeff Bezos takes like Vegas and something, and like there's like DeSantis or I don't know somebody Republican. That's not necessarily a positive outlook for the United States, but I mean, I don't control what happens in the United States. American people in the United States, because I'm in illegally occupied Hawaii, like South Korea, I'm in illegally occupied Hawaii. Americans in the continent, and indigenous people there, ideally, it would be really great if indigenous people were supported and you had land back in the United States, and people really got on the side of we need a global, we need ultimately communist parties. We need socialism. We need socialism with a variety of character. Socialism with Anishinaabe and Mi'kmaq and Blackfoot and etc. characteristics, and everyone else needs to figure out what they're going to do in that. But if we look at the West's past, it does have, and there was the French Revolution, which had some positive aspects to it. It was not very successful in bringing about a just society. Like the French Revolution didn't wind up with the Communist Party of China style France that led to the greatest success story of human poverty alleviation and development in a win-win socialist path. This French Revolution executed a lot of the wealthiest people in extreme level of inequality, and then there were some benefits to that. It's a little bit, it can be dangerous to look too oligarchic, and to an extent, the West was forced to pretend like feudalism had ended, or like the feudalist, capitalist, imperialist, colonialist France became democratic, capitalist, égalité, liberté France, right? But what is France today? What is it, right? It's obviously, at least, maybe for a bit, something was different, but definitely today, France and Britain and the United States, they're all part of a imperialist, racist, colonialist system, right? And Macron and the richest man in the world is oftentimes the CEO of Louis Vuitton conglomerate, right? So, but it did. The French Revolution did at least force the ruling classes to take off the capes, right? So that's why it became no longer feudalist, and then they had to pretend like there was democracy, right? So that was one. You could say that it was one material change that the French did, was that the Western white European and Euro settler world suddenly had to pivot towards no longer wearing crowns and capes, showing off the wealth. They had to wear suits. That's what Neofeud is partially about. My game Neofeud. Shout out to Neofeud, briefly. Is a game about the history of the collective Western failure and an imperial capitalist colonial system, which came out of the feudal capitalist system. Because the feudalist system, the colonialist system, and the capitalist system all overlap differently at different times. And I think it's part of Neofeud is arguing like why this is actually problematic, and also the pretense that feudalism, unjust ruling, non-democratic feudalism, evolved into free, democratic, just capitalist Western society, right? That's one of the deep lies. That's why the West never successfully changes, or it keeps people trapped in that lie for a long time. Liberalism itself was born around the time of the French Revolution, when things were getting so extremely bad, right? Famines, right? Les Miserables. Dickens, the British had Charles Dickens' Tale of Two Cities, right? The levels of inequality were so bad. There was mass theft at scales that had not, maybe I wouldn't say never seen before, but they were very high scales of impoverishment. If you go read Tale of Two Cities, it's very interesting. It's like just substitute the Les Miserables stealing the bread for Americans, like just like walking out of Walmart and Target with handfuls of groceries. And the U.S. police cop cities having to be revved up, and RoboCops to stop it. But it's actually like the U.S. is entering. The U.S. has to get a little bit has to get a bit worse, and America will enter the level of inequality that it had at some of these times. People have to be starving to death in America, like in large numbers. I'm not saying people need to starve to death. That's not good. But I'm saying like that. Even the Chinese will go like, we were starving to death more than you. We were all on heroin, but America is getting there with the fentanyl, CIA narco trafficking into itself, all the heroin that it's not growing in Afghanistan, 83% before it was kicked out or it left, and the U.S. government manufactures and sells back into Americans, and pretends like the Mexicans and the Chinese are doing it. So America is getting to, narco trafficked, fifth poorest country in the world, people starving to death, no roads. No toilet, no education, right? So when Americans have no education, no toilet, no nothing, then it'll be close to something, I mean, it sounds really horrible, but like, ideally it doesn't get that way, but like, that seems to be the trajectory that America's going in. If you don't want to have no roads, no toilet, starving to death, support your indigenous people where you are, support land back, mutually organized in anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, communist foreign nations, like I keep talking about forever, or you're going to be completely fucked. Or you could like leave the United States. Like some people are leaving, thousands or millions of people are leaving. 12 million people. Just a little side note: 12 million people entered China in the last week. Many of them are not going to go back. Many of them are Americans. They saw the Spring Festival. They saw the world's most advanced civilization under socialism with Chinese characteristics, high-speed rail, You know, Americans just went to China. I highlight, right? None of them are going to come back. Maybe 5% of the Americans are going to come back. Or if they come back, they're going to figure out how they're going to immigrate to China as fast as possible. Because the West is cooked. It's not, you got to be honest. Like, it's not going to be easy in America. It's going to fucking suck. I'm not happy about it. I got to sell video games to Americans. I need them to buy my freaking games. If they're too busy starving, they don't have enough money to buy games probably. It pisses me off. I mean, I wish I didn't have to tell you that. Because it's gonna be hard for us. I know it's gonna be hard for us. It sucks. But we need to stop the illegal. I can't just run away right now. I need to figure out what we're gonna do to stop the U.S. illegal occupation of Hawaii, or do whatever we have to do. Let me see if I can find that. Spring Festival. It's Spring Festival, okay? Tens of millions of people have gone and seen a amazing country that has $1 doctor visits, right? $200 average rents, right? That has massive almost free food everywhere. It's barely costs any money. It's like not even expensive. They have amazing heritage and culture. It's 1.4 billion people that have alleviated poverty. They have high-speed rail. They have like Star Trek science fictional robot delivery. You can order anything and get it instantly to wherever you are, and it's all affordable within like an hour. Like within an hour, you can order like a new cell phone or like a McDonald's burger if you want, or a better Chinese fast food burger, or you can order like a lunch with vegetables, fruits, 7 different spices, garlic, and actually well-cooked food, and it will be in your hands in 1 hour with drones and almost anywhere in China. For less than 1/4 the price, you can travel the same distance in a high-speed, hyper energy efficient green rail system. Nobody is going to. I wager that almost nobody from America that goes to China, and there are millions going to China, they're not going to come back. They're not going to come back. And you know what? Who can blame those people? So, it's not. I do not work for the Chinese Beijing, Yunnan, Xinjiang, or Shanghai Tourism Authority. Okay, but I'm just telling you that this is just a fact. Okay, the West is dead. It's cooked. It's completely cooked. And this is what happened in Rome, right? When Rome died, people left. People were like, what the hell am I even doing here? Why was I even here? Why was I being waited? Why was I waiting to be fed to lions? You know, when I could have been anywhere else. Now the difference is, when Rome fell, there wasn't a BRICS. When Rome fell, there wasn't the world's most advanced country that was a socialist, amazing paradise. China was in a different situation at that time. It was far away. Americans today, as the Star-Spangled Rome dies, any American can see the greatest civilization on the planet of the earth and many others around them, right? They can see prospering African countries, prospering Asian countries, ASEAN. They can see Russia is a nicer subway system. Right-wing like crypto-fascist people like Tucker Carlson are like going on Russian subways and being like, Russia is amazing compared to the United States. And you can just watch a Russian YouTuber and just see that everything's better over there. The food is like 4 times, 5 times cheaper. It's all fresh. They're not worried about being, constantly having to make exorbitant rents. You know, they're like prospering and doing a lot better. So the Roman Empire collapsed without access to the planet's communication device called the internet, and people seeing it. But because the U.S. Star-Spangled Roman Empire is collapsing in the 500-year colonial capitalist imperial system from 1492 approximately to 2025, right? So the rate at which the rate at which the West is going to die is going to be faster. It's another accelerating factor because you can see an alternative. You can get on a plane. Romans didn't have planes. Like, if you're a Roman watching your increasingly expensive, bloody live Netflix, right? If you're a Roman, you're trying to Netflix and chill, right? Eating rotten olives, reading a bit of rotten olives with overpriced denarius, bought with overpriced denarius, watching, crap Netflix. The only thing good on TV is Severance now. It's the only show I want to watch now. Like, I sit there and refresh the freaking Roku TV channel browser. Please have Severance on, because every other show is absolute garbage. It's either AI generated slop, imperial liberal or capitalist claptrap that's not even well acted, like this stupid clown show where Elon pretends like He's fighting against the U.S. government. And politicians pretend like they're trying to break in, which they're not. This is not very entertaining. It's a very poor circus in my Roman Empire. I don't want to watch this. This is very boring. But in the end of the Roman Empire, right? If they could see, oh, I don't have to sit here and starve to death, waiting to be fed to the lions. I could go to China. I could go to some advanced civilization, like a Star Trek utopia, and live there instead of living this shithole called Rome. Rome would have died way faster. Maybe the Borgias and a lot of the feudal system, wouldn't have gotten as off the ground, right? The feudal, horrible, many different powers in Europe just constantly fighting and warring with each other for so many centuries. That wouldn't have worked because people would have. Why am I going to sit here and fight for a feudal king that's taking 1/3 of my grain to give to himself to eat and use it to buy bigger armies and gold for himself? Why should I work for a feudal king, a Roman emperor, a British oligarch in the 1800s? Why should I live in the Tale of Two Cities or Les Miserables, France? Why should I be Jean Valjean stealing fucking bread and going to prison for 57 years in this hellhole called Paris? Why should I live in Europe, such a hellhole? Why should I live in America? It's like European cancer, colonial capitalist cancer expanded to Turtle Island. Why would I live in LA, Skid Row, or Skid Row-ified America, when I could go to fucking China? Well, I could go to any other country that's way better than this on a plane. It takes me like 6 hours. The most expensive part of going to China is the plane ticket. Everything after that, it's only, or those expense. It's like the Chinese are actually telling Americans, if you have a serious disease, get on a plane, fly to China. We will fix you up. We will help you. If you need a serious heart surgery, you have something to do with your liver. You have a broken bone. Something that's gonna be expensive. Americans, fly on a plane, go to China. We will fix you for almost nothing. When you get back, the most expensive part of your healthcare will be the plane ticket. Right? Now, some of the Chinese are actually worried. They're like, "Oh shit, all these Americans are gonna come to our country." But, the thing is, like, people have always been moving around. I think some of the people, they're being a little bit silly. Also, the Chinese, they might need actually, like, they could use a little bit of people, a little bit more exchange sometimes. They can. It's positive thing. They can get very. They have so much to learn about themselves. They don't need to learn a lot about the rest of the world. They have 10 times more literature in Chinese than all of English combined. 3,500 years of it. So much. I'm trying to learn Mandarin and a lot of that, and it's just so much. It's easy. I mean, it's legitimate, but it's helping the Chinese to see, average Chinese, how bad it is. The Chinese are seeing, oh my God, when you have a communist party that controls markets, controls capital, controls business, controls billionaires, right? When the billionaires like Jack Ma, they get wiped out when they try to even think about corrupting the government. With a successful communist party, the Chinese can see, oh my God, if you have business and competition and markets and billionaires under American plutocracy, it's horrible, right? Because actually, some of the Chinese, they don't really care too much if the businesses do better, right? If business gets big, they don't care too much because they know that, like, the government is going to rein that in, right? Or they has done well to rein that in and control that and make sure that the benefits of the business growth is going to get distributed properly to people. Like, if the housing gets out of control, the Chinese government just simply eliminates landlords by going housing. The Chinese Communist Party passed a rule that said houses are for living and not for making money, and through extreme tax rates made it impossible to do landlordism for like 2023, 2024. They're having to push back. They're having to actually be a little bit less hard on landlords because they need people to come into Shanghai, Beijing, and these cities they do need people that are going to rent because they have a house in their home province in the larger China, but they need people coming into the cities to work for portions of the time, right? So they don't necessarily they need apartment stewards, but apartment stewards need some revenue to keep the apartment. They need to maintain those apartments that are the second. They're like the second working house for a lot of Chinese people. It's actually the one major difference. People don't realize that. In America, you have one house and you're just completely screwed as a neo-feudal serf, that's living in LA paying, 90% of your rent, 90%. So we want to spend time in our home area, right? That's part of what the Spring Festival is, where Shanghai, the population of Shanghai, Beijing gets cut in half. because the people leave the city. Now part of the deal is China also wants to spread out common moderate prosperity so that it's not everybody in one city, or not everybody in a handful of mega cities like Shanghai, Beijing, Taipei, Hong Kong. They want people to be more spread out, and that's work. It's a process to more evenly develop. You know, they have ways to talk about it, but it is indigenous people that want to come to the cities, and they have jobs there, and there's different things there's certain kind of jobs you can only do in certain cities because, you know, that's the nature of cities. Like, you know, LA is where a lot of people go for Hollywood, film and TV. You know, well, actually, everything in the West is where you do horrible things. Well, they do different horrible things. In DC, you can go to do political imperial hegemony. In Wall Street, you can go make tons of money and do oligarchy. And in LA, you can do imperial propaganda, right? In the military-industrial complex, professional, entertainment, manufacturing, content manufacturing, it's called Hollywood. But like in China, so like in Shanghai, in each city, you have a different character. You might go to Chengdu, you go to, Shenzhen has some of the most advanced computer, like DeepSeek and a lot of those kind of, Huawei. Not all of it, but a lot of it is clustered in one place. You go to Beijing, it's a different vibe. It's like, a lot of the political center is there. Obviously, it's a capital. Chongqing is a wholly different vibe. So people might live in a city and work in a city that's not their home, their indigenous home, native territory for thousands of years, right? So, but you don't want landlords you don't want a landlord renting out thousands of units, right, for like $6,000 each, ridiculous prices like in the U.S. or in the West in general. Neofeudal corporate landlordism, but you also need some amount of like apartment stewardship or something like that. I'm sure they'll come up with some better name than that. Like, you need people to maintain the temporary, your temporary work and tourism too, because there is some tourism. The tourism is part of the growth of the economy. So you need people to maintain hotels, and you need people to maintain some kind of entity to maintain the temporary work locations. Right, so they need, and so they have to make enough money to keep going, right? The people that are just like maintaining the apartment buildings, because Shanghai right now is half empty, right? Anyway, so I know this is like way too much on the internal workings of the socialism of Chinese characteristics, but anyway, I'm pointing it out because that's what a civilization is like, right? It's like that is a problem. Like, how do we make sure that the houses are maintained, but we don't have runaway landlordism so that you have a handful of people, right, renting the apartments for just ridiculous prices, right, in a Ponzi pyramid scheme real estate game, and then you have empty apartments, right, like in Vancouver, Honolulu, New York. You have empty apartment units, right, that are just used as ways of storing wealth and using housing to make money, right, and then people who are still renting are paying way too much for their rent that they can't afford, right? So that is a problem that the Chinese are working on, right, and they have solved a lot of problems, and they always have more problems they're gonna solve. But that's an adult civilization, right? The U.S., Europe, Canada, these are joke places. These are clownarch places. So that's why go to visit China, and if you want to do really great science, tech, engineering, math, you want to do biotech, robotics, you want to breakthroughs in stealth technology, 6th generation, 7th generation fighters. You want to work on submarines. You want to explore the moon. You want to explore the world. You want to explore the universe. Invent new quantum teleportation. Not even joking with some of these micro tokamak fusion cells. You want to do the next. Chinese are working on that, by the way. They have a cell phone that has a 50-year battery life using micronuclear technology. If you want to do something really cool and interesting, you got to leave the U.S. If you invent anything in the U.S., Elon will take it and turn it into weapons to go blow up innocent children, or do something horrible. Tech, computer science, all be used to try to control the world and keep everybody inside of a matrix of imperial capitalist brainwashing and bad Netflix shows. It's called the Western AI industry. So leave the West if you want to do anything. Actually, if you just want to focus on like working in your life and like being a good professional, working in science or tech or whatever, art or whatever, that's all you want to do. You want to think about politics. You want to think about making the R word. I mean, not the R slur, but completely changing a system. If you don't want to do the very hard work, which is going to be hard, I'm not going to lie to you. It's not going to be easy. You're going to suffer in the United States to do this work. Indigenous people like me, we can't just go, I'm not going to be a nationality anymore. I'm just going to go move off. I'm going to go somewhere else. I'm going to just, like what Europeans did, right? But if you already are a white European middle class descendant, I mean, I'm not saying that you can't be a Anishinaabe and move to China or something, but like, or that you're, I don't want to say, you're like a trader or something, but like we have, like, we as indigenous people, we have a lot of ties to the land that settler colonialism has stolen. And I say that as a native Hawaiian. The Chinese understand that. Like, I was just talking to the Chinese, I just posted like Free Congo, U.S. and Western colonizers out of Africa, and I said, as a native Hawaiian, we need colonizers out of Hawaii. And the Chinese were like, yeah, free Africa, free Hawaii. Hawaii is yours. You must take this all back. Because the Chinese had to take their own country back. The Chinese did land back. It was called Mao Zedong. It's called Communist Party Revolution. That was their land back, right? People in the West, they don't want to talk about that because, caucasity, and they're all colonial criminals, and they don't want to talk about capitalism. They don't want to deal with that question, but that is going to be part of the question, and that is the part of the U.S. question. It's going to come to that. Because the United States is going to break up. People want to just talk about the income and the money, and we can just, restructure. The capitalist system does have to be undone, but there's a whole, the capitalist system also is situated upon a global imperial colonial structure. The rest of the world understands that, and Americans don't understand that. To the extent that Americans, oh shit, oh sorry about that. Oh, sorry about I forgot to mute the video. Okay. Anyways, I have not muted the video. I'll stop going off about that as well. Move on. I gotta wrap. It's 1:50. Anyways, so long story short. I'm sorry I don't often read the chat when I do my YouTube thing, but I try to read it more on the Twitch channel. I don't know why there's so many people today. Yeah, thanks for stopping by, Colin, and everybody else, though. And I apologize that I forgot to mute that video when it was cycling. Anyway, long story short, I gotta finish. So, we have to deal with the colonialism. And obviously, if you want to free Palestine, right, that is an indigenous versus a colonizer struggle there, right? And that is directly linked to the colonial struggle inside the United States itself. And Canada, Australia, and New Zealand as settler colonies, and in Hawaii as well, we have that same struggle. And so, so to exit the East and come back to the West. So, but that's just a good, China is a mirror in which the U.S. and the collective West can see who it really is reflected based upon seeing what an actual functioning society, civilization is like. And so coming back to the Clownarchy world, though, so what does that mean? It's gonna be not fun. It's not gonna be fun. It's not gonna be easy. Holly was just talking to, was investigating with one of our peoples in the neighborhood about food. There's a seed bank, a food bank. We have a lot of sweet potatoes. Like if you follow Silver Spook Patreon. By the way, if you want to support us, you can help us out on obviously direct support through Ko-Fi, but also through Patreon. We're an anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, Native Hawaiian land back. Cooperative, and also just basically a small family operation, but we are connected to, indigenous organizations, Hawaiian Kanaka Maoli organizations, and many organizations around the world. But obviously, most, we are in Hawaii, and I'm a native Hawaiian. So if you want to support us, patreon.com/Neofeud is the one way that you can help us out and give us ongoing support for this, and also I get access to Silver Spook Discord and Silver Spook University, which is over 1,000 hours of all the videos, but categorized by topics, as one of the perks. And of course, anyway, but I bring that up because we are going to have, the Patreon is one way that we try to, mutually aid each other in the same way that the people of the United States, right? Whether they're indigenous, they're white, they're black, or whatever their history is, right? For better or for worse, that's where they are. They're in there. Their families there, right? Their jobs are there. Their networks are there. They're connected to whatever bad history is there. The racist colonialist history is there. Your dad and your grandpa, benefited from massive amounts of indigenous land. They made millions of dollars and accumulated vast wealth there. And, you're not necessarily like an evil person because your family, happened to, use slaves at one point, owns, vast quantities of land for some reason, or multiple houses, and collects rents on them, owns businesses, owns other forms of wealth. But like what you choose to do with the wealth that you have accumulated on the settler colonial empire of the United States territory, and in it or around it or adjacent to it, that what you choose to do with that is going to matter, right? Are you going to choose to, are you going to aid the organizations that are building actual people power that has a possibility of actually having at some point, not immediately, but at some point, right, overturning the entire system of the United States. So that's what organizing for the accelerating collapse is important. Again, we're entering an era like Trump presidency the first. It's going to be an era of people like turning to alternatives, because the liberals make you feel as though your country, your empire, the oligarchy is and it's a democracy and it's okay. The Republicans are less good at the circus part, and the Trump is really not good at it. Elon is not good at it. He just grabs for power like an idiot. He just says stuff like, when the Bolivians say, what we didn't need was a coup for all of our lithium backed by the U.S. government, and you, Elon Musk, benefiting. And then Elon just says stuff like, oh, well, we'll coup whoever we want, deal with it. So that's really great for the world, because now people will, again, as I said at the beginning, more Americans, especially privileged ones, especially white ones, will see who the U.S. really is again. And it's going to be harder to escape this time, because the liberals have done a really good, the liberals have really done a bang up job making themselves look horrible. They are, but no, they're making themselves look that way by soaking themselves in the blood of hundreds of thousands of innocent people in the Middle East, right, over the last 16 months. So and so people have to really start organizing more. More mutual aid operations. Connecting with obviously indigenous people of color, left organizations, communists. I saw a communist party of various socialist communist parties are growing in the United States. There is more, looking at third parties in this last election. I think it was estimated recently that actually the election was lost. I think it was a big 27% of people that voted last time for Kamala. They left the Democratic Party this time. That's an election, but that is like where people's minds is at is starting to move away from the duopoly, at least, and faith in the U.S. government is definitely dropping. And so there needs to be, definitely more organizations in the, economics that is not tied to the United States government, whether that's the U.S. federal government. That's part of these cuts to, SNAP and Medicare is kind of like Trump tried to cut Medicare, SNAP, and a whole bunch of college student and college professors' jobs and or academic careers, and he had to unroll that almost instantaneously with these one of his many things he signed this past 2 weeks, right? Because that would cause, that could actually cause revolution in the United States if suddenly, again, right, if millions of people start starving in the United States, that leads to people getting really serious. In the same way, more like how serious the South Koreans were in that instance, because they were going to die. They were going to die many would starve and they would be dying if Yoon Suk-yeol had gotten through what he was trying to get through. Or in the times of the Chinese Communist Party's rise, right? It was a time when many people were starving to death. Many Americans don't have anywhere to live. They're living in cars. They're living in like vans. They're smashed together 20 to a house, right? Many are on the street, right? If the Trump administration suddenly cut like all the supports, right? This is why the Democrats and liberals are more competent. If you give the masses of your country an appropriate amount of bread and circus, not too much that, it cuts into your profit. You can make as much money as you can, making it as expensive and hard for the masses as possible, right? Discipline the labor force, right? Discipline your serfs, your slaves, your workers, whatever the West calls their peasants and their commoners, right? The hoi polloi. That's what the Romans, the Latin word I think is a hoi polloi. But if you give them too little too fast, right, then you can collapse and you cause a revolution. So the part of me was like, I mean, if the U.S. decides it wants to cut all of the millions upon millions of people that rely on Social Security, food stamps, Medicare, all these basic programs, right, that keeps the U.S. empire afloat. It keeps the U.S. government afloat and cause, mass. I mean, I can't really say it on the stream, but, think about what you think. People are already at the end of the road, right? There's already the claims adjuster in December. If the United States rapidly just like cut the bottom out from everybody, there might not be a United States anymore. So I think that's what Trump was told, probably by people more senior than him, people slightly more competent than him. You cannot cut that right now. If you cut that right now, it's the oligarchy, not just Elon, but all of the billionaire and millionaire class that all collectively control the United States government with all of their donations and their networks of lobbyists, etc. They said, if you do that, we're going to lose the entire United States. We don't want. We got to keep capitalism and imperialism going a little bit longer. So you got to roll that back. You can't go that fast, right? But Elon is kind of like, Elon does what Elon wants. The thing is, Elon is usually stopped by his competent people, like young people around him, right? When Elon was programming, Elon demanded when he was working at PayPal to program the code of the PayPal system, and he ended up like breaking the entire payment system and causing mass, blue screens of death and errors everywhere. So the younger, actual competent skill people, or not so younger, but the competent skilled workers, regular lowly workers of the techno king Elon, they had to give him a detached computer that made it seem like he was actually doing some cool hacking, pretending to be Neo. He could put on his Matrix sunglasses and his trench coat and pretend like he was hacking the PayPal system, making really cool, efficient payments when he was doing nothing, right? So, but there are increasingly incompetent people surrounding Elon, right? They just like let him do whatever, and they're just like, there are people named like Big Balls and like Dig Doggy Dog, and they're walking around Nazi saluting. Like, they're all like less and less talented people are willing to be surrounded by Elon, and it's just more and more just like useless, talentless sycophants. And and so that's gonna, that's gonna, I mean, I'm not saying Elon himself doesn't control everything, but he does. He is the poster boy for the oligarchs because he has put himself in that position and he likes that, right? But like if he does like just suddenly move really quickly on a particular thing, in a way, like he's like downloading all the Social Security, downloading all of the U.S. government's information. I mean, all the U.S. oligarchs have all the U.S. government's information. It's acting like Elon and the billionaires are separate from the U.S. government and all of their, all the Social Security, all your food stamps, all the U.S. military budget, all the U.S. government's documents, United States government, right? U.S. government is the employee of the billionaires, right? Elon is just like doing mask off U.S. government, or he's just like, I'm gonna come in and I'm gonna see what I paid for, right? And but at the end of the day, if Elon really wants to just if Elon wants to start the end of America really fast, I mean, he can't really do anything, right, to stop the decline of the United States, right? Everything he's doing makes the U.S. look stupider and worse and more broken, right? So again, like the BRICS are like clapping for Trump, like keep tariff. There's a joke in China that goes, "I wish the United States would sanction and tariff the Chinese soccer team because then we would get better," right? It was like if the Trump and Rubio and the administration just thinks they can just like sanction and tariff everybody out of existence, right? They're so happy, like, thank you for sanctioning and tariffing and cutting off from NVIDIA chips and AI. Now we made the best AI in the world, DeepSeek. We completely demolished your last best hope of keeping your hegemony by controlling the world through all of the world, controlling the most important technology of the 21st century, AI. Good. We used your tariffs and sanctions as a way to, as a push to leapfrog your entire last best great white hope of OpenAI. And Sam Altman and Peter Thiel's friends, and Elon's friends, right? They're all in AI. So good job, you stupid idiot, right? So Trump is gonna just magnify the bad or incompetence, and Elon is also gonna magnify that. Part of me is like, man, if Elon cut every single support program, America will be absolutely on fire. I mean, obviously it would hurt so many people, and that would hurt a lot of people, and that's not good. That's horrible. But people. I mean, it's kind of like now you have to be organized in your community. The United States is directly going to be your complete enemy. You will have to completely system change the United States, or you're going to have to figure out an alternative to being, right, complicit in the U.S. empire. America is not going to give you, if you're a black person, America is not going to give you, that's the competent imperialist, right? It was very competent. As I practice, like without DEI, not woke, because the word is misused, but without giving black, brown, indigenous, women, queer people a sense that you're included, right, in the U.S. empire, the U.S. would not have a competent military. It wouldn't have competent businesses. It's tech, right? Half the coders in Silicon Valley is all like trans women, a lot of them of color, and then the rest is like Chinese, Asian. Without without acceptance of all these different peoples, without immigrants, Ron DeSantis couldn't get a single building built in Florida for a week straight. And then you had to reverse and go, no, okay, South and Central Americans, you can build whatever you want, because the United States will break. It would break without that, right? So the more that they try, and so that was why it was a very competent empire, to include as many of these people, and go, you can have black trans lives as long as you be a black trans person blowing up innocent people of color all around the world, right? Or doing high frequency trading, programming AI that's going to brainwash everybody into believing that Ukraine is fighting for freedom or some bullshit, or bringing human rights and freedom to Africa. Thank God USAID is gone. USAID, BBC is screaming. I want to finish up on that, but I made a whole thread this week about USAID, which is hilarious. But where's the US? Yeah. Let's just finish on that. Yeah. USAID, I'm running out of glasses for all liberal imperialist tears. Thank you for destroying your global ecosystem of Western's media propagandist U.S. empire. Because of the U.S. funding freezing the entire global ecosystem of China nonprofits is facing an extinction event. I'm not exaggerating for clicks. This is literally what is happening. Literally like Politico. 6% of BBC funding straight from one U.S. aid organization, USAID, to do what? Anti-China propaganda, right? This West is self-abolishing BBC and other Western imperialist media. This is the BBC saying, a free press is essential to freedom and democracy. BBC, right? The imperial propaganda arm of the United States is a bastion of so-called freedom and democracy. Anyway, it's all those people like me and our people that the Western clowns like to call tankies. They're always saying, we're always trying to call this out. Like the U.S. is trying to overthrow, is trying to subjugate, is trying to pretend like it's doing human rights, freedom, democracy, but it's actually trying to color revolution, overthrow, invade, or justify some imperialist operation that's going to cause mass suffering and billionaire profits, right? Somewhere in the earth. And BBC is saying, oh my God, 8% of our entire income was coming, it was U.S. government funding, like USAID, right? Marco Rubio just slashed like 294. Marco Rubio just slashed almost 99%. What is that? 294. Yeah, that's like almost 1 out of 99 out of 100 jobs. So it's like 99% of all of USAID is gone. What USAID in Cuba was horrible. Did you know that U.S. created secretly Cuban Twitter to stir unrest and undermine government through USAID funded Zunzanea, a social network built on text it hopes it would use to organize smart mobs to trigger Cuban Spring? This is what USAID was actually for. There's some people going, oh, well, they aided some people. They aided some people. I mean, if the United States actually gave food and housing and hospitals to people in any significant amount, the world would have had its poverty alleviated. Any amount USAID actually gave to food, hospitals and houses is outmatched by magnitudes by the damage it has done to the entire planet. The millions of people that have starved to death because of overthrows of the countries, because of coups, that U.S.-backed coups that have been successfully committed. The Hong Kong riots, that was just a U.S.-backed USAID. All the screaming first name English name, last name Chinese, like Aurora Chang, trying to overthrow they got billions of dollars of economic losses in Hong Kong with U.S. Donald Trump and Mike Pompeo funded and Jimmy Lai, the sellout to his own Chinese people, working with the U.S. Trump administration. It's interesting. What were the Democrats, even during the Trump administration? You could have called it the Hong Kong riots as a Donald Trump, Republican CIA director Mike Pompeo funded operation. But where was the Democrats for that? Again, they're all on the same team. And also in Cuba, where so USAID is just the CIA with, after the 1970s and the Vietnam War, when Nixon said, it's not a crime when we do it, and Americans were at a huge level of mistrust of their government, rightfully, mistrust of the CIA, rightfully, and they were upset that the United States was using all this money and secretive operations to go around and destroy countries and plunder them through U.S. imperial CIA operations. They rebranded USAID and said, oh, no, we're not doing lying, cheating, stealing, killing, overthrowing countries to prevent spread of communism and maintain capitalism and neo-colonial plunder. What we're doing is we're doing democracy, freedom, and human rights. The whole idea of democracy, freedom, human rights, USAID, right? That was competent imperialism, which is the worst thing. That's the COVID. That's the most virulent strain of Westernism ever. It's a liberal strain. It's the most advanced form of itself. That it evolved, right? It's kind of like under the pressure of people discovering how horrible the U.S. and the West is, right? They needed to make a new mask for themselves, and that was USAID, NED. These are two of them. There's many others, and so people are saying, oh, they're going to take the mask off. I mean, if they take the mask off, again, right? Like if Trump decreased the U.S. empire 7 years, if USAID, NED, if U.S. international operations to control the entire planet are done in the light, it's going to be harder to do it. Well, I mean, they'll just have a hard fist with what hard fist? What, your broken F-35? What hard fist? What? The electronic warfare you lost to China in the Philippines in less than 12 hours? What hard fist? The war you just lost? What? America doesn't have hard anything. America is a soft, bloated corpse. So if America loses its ability, right, again, to do informational psychological warfare by pretending like people they're good while being bad, tricking many of the world, tricking Black, Brown, Indigenous women and queer people to come to America and pilot their F-35s, program their open AI, program their, and manufacture their consent through writing horrible articles, right? By tricking young people into believing Human Rights Watch is for human rights. America is it's just going to be cooked 3 times faster, and that's the best thing ever. So I welcome. I mean, I don't think that. I mean, okay, well they can rebrand USAID. They're going to call it what? What are they going to call it? Trump Aid. That doesn't sound very good. Marco Rubio's very friendly, very nice, loving, woke. Marco Rubio is very friendly, very, very queer, LGBTQ plus friendly, women's rights supporting Marco Rubio. Nobody will gonna believe that, I mean, maybe they'll think of something. Some competent imperialist from the Biden administration, some Blinken is gonna come back, half competent, fail son of empire is gonna be like, oh wait. Pretend like we care about women's rights in like Syria, okay? Just pretend that we do, right? But I think probably what's gonna happen is it's just gonna be incompetent, stupid crap, and China is gonna be like clapping. China, Russia, Iran, the Middle East, Africa, South America, Central America, indigenous people like me are just gonna be like, oh yeah, keep wrecking the United States, destroy it all. Be who you are, right? Just be a bunch of racist, just keep sig heiling. Every time Elon sig heils, it's great because it makes the world see who the U.S. is. When the Nazi flag and the U.S. flag are synonymous to Americans and to the world already knows that, but the global South knows that. But when even the Western world knows that it's synonymous and that all of it is broken and they lose complete faith and the belief in even in America itself evaporates to nothing. That's going to be really great for the world because then they'll be closer to their total collapse. Who's going to sign up for the U.S. military at that point, right? I have liberals come into my streams and they say, Silver Spook, why would you be against the U.S. military? They're so for pro-diversity. There's many Black and brown people in the military, and like that doesn't work on me, right? Because I'm not like a brainwashed USAID instructed, U.S. Democrat instructed, brainwashed brown person, right? But on some other brainwashed brown person, that might work. So that's why it's great. The Republicans are the best. They're the best. They destroy America so well. I love it so much. Ken Klippenstein is a clown who took, at the Intercept, $208,000 to try to overthrow Iran. Why? Because Pierre Omidyar, who is a CEO who resides in Hawaii, by the way. He's a billionaire American, ex-Iranian trader who came to the United States, and he wants to overthrow Iran so that he can go back to Iran and try to rule as a local caliphate or something. I don't know. But Pierre Omidyar is a CEO who is a legal colonizer in Hawaii also. He runs the Intercept. He also runs Civil Beat, several other publications. But he paid, through USAID grants, he paid one of the writers that works for one of his publications, The Intercept, Ken Klippenstein, $208,000. So I'm here to drink all the tears of all these screaming little children. That I spend a lot of my free time and I don't get paid to do this. Xi Jinping and Putin don't give me, you know what? The USAID in one operation, they got paid $110,000 per person per year to write very poorly told lies for a New York publication. That's like the average USAID pay. Look at this. Where I saved it. Here, look at this. Not that. This. Okay. In this article, cuts in American aid are crippling groups promoting rights in China. But you should read that as cuts in American aid are crippling groups attempting to justify more proxy wars and damaging China's reputation by making up bullshit about how horrible Chinese. Actually, I talked to one of these horribly treated Chinese workers. You know, not in Shenzhen. It was like in another province that's like developing. Shenzhen is actually very, very developed, so a lot of the manufacturing operations have moved out. When I actually looked at the actual benefits, like you can save the equivalent of 4,000 working to make the horrible Chinese human rights violation. I mean, I'm not saying there's never any, bad corporate activity, but like these horrible jobs working in manufacturing in China. I was offered a job to work in an area near Shenzhen in China as a manufacturer. Because I said, in Hawaii, I'm homeless. And did you know, like, they give you free housing. And that's not a huge, but, it's you work there for a period of time. You save money. Free housing, free meals. And you save the equivalent of $4,000 per month. It's like $560 US dollars, but that's equivalent purchasing power parity. It's a purchasing power parity in China equivalent to $4,000 a month. So you get free house, free food. The healthcare is negligible cost. It's like $1 to see. It's $1 to see a doctor. A surgery is often like $100 or a few hundred, sometimes $1,000 at the most. So healthcare costs are 100 to 1,000 times less in China for many important things. So you get basically free healthcare, free food, free housing, and you save $4,000 a month, equivalent. Purchase PPP terms, as a cell phone assembler or like as a garment worker in China. I bookmarked it. I still have that job offer, by the way. I'm not gonna take it because I gotta liberate Hawaii, but from U.S. colonial capitalist occupation, but. That's when people say, oh my God, these people in China, they're so oppressed. I mean, there are people that have their living situation is not great. There are shady things that have been done. The Communist Party, there's a number called 2, 3, 4, 5. The Communist Party will crack down and they will fire and they will get rid of political officials and corporate entities, corporate individuals that are violating rights. They regularly do this. That's why the Chinese 96% approval, 92 to 96% approval rating of their government, because their government works for them, right? The Chinese actually love their police and they love their military because whenever they show up, the police will give their lives to save the Chinese people. American police give your life to maintain $200,000 fascist American police salaries, right? They they shoot you to keep their salary, right? Because they don't shoot you and beat you, break your leg when you're striking or you're going through a tenant organization, right, to stop getting evicted. The police are paid to beat your ass, right? In China, they actually self-sacrifice. They die themselves. The police die saving the Chinese far more, right? I mean, from even just like floods, a fire, just like random events happening. There's police in America. They jump to kill you, right? That's all they want to do is beat you up, kill you, and they're guilty of sexually assaulting 2 out of 5 New York women, NYPD. So that's not a fly, but that's because then that's a grown-up civilization though. So if you call, long story short is that like if you have to make up stories, right? Because when you have the opposite of Rome, the opposite of Britain, the opposite of Spain, Spanish conquistadors, the opposite of America, right? Capitalist, colonialist, racist, unjust, hierarchical, barbaric, misogynistic, anti-LGBTQ plus West, right? You have China. That's a complete opposite in every single one of those ways. You have to pay billions of dollars a year, 38 plus billion, just USAID is billions of dollars a year just to pay fail sons of the empire, right? Like this idiots like Ken Klippenstein to write bullshit. I wish I could make $110,000 a year, right? Writing the truth about U.S. abuses of Hawaii, the way that privileged white Americans and other Americans, not even white, privileged Americans can make $120,000 a year writing absolute lies about China. You know, that would be amazing. But you know, Xi Jinping and Putin, they don't give me no money. You know, I'm not angry about that. I'm just like that's how it has to be, because you know, that's what that, you know, yeah, we're okay with that. We have enough Patreon and Ko-Fi support to keep doing this. But I just want to say, I report truthfully on U.S. abuses in occupied Hawaii for years, and I never raked in $100,000 a year from Xi Jinping or Putin. And China Labor Watch investigated labor abuses in Chinese supply chains with a staff of 7 and a budget of $800,000 per year. Now it is on the verge of collapse. And I say to that, collapse, motherfucker. You know, in all the worst, in the most egregiously nasty and mean way I could possibly say it, collapse, motherfuckers. You didn't deserve to exist. You caused suffering and death of millions of people with all your proxy wars, your African colonialism, your Asian colonialism, your attempts to suppress socialism worldwide. USAID, burn, motherfuckers, burn. Along with the rest of the United States. Anyways, that's a good place as any to end. I gotta go. If you would like to support us, again, don't forget. Hey, what's up, McLovin? Also, thanks a lot. Yeah, thanks a lot, McLovin, for stopping by, and everyone else who stopped by. I'm sorry I didn't look at all your chat. You can directly support us through Ko-Fi at ko-fi.com/silverspook. You can also help us out, as I said earlier, on patreon.com/Neofeud. At patreon.com/Neofeud, you can give us ongoing support and get access to what we're doing here at the Silver Spook Cooperative as well. So one of the things we do is we try to build. I mean, again, as things are getting hard, so we're trying to grow as much food as possible. We have sweet potatoes. We're gonna be offering to donate to the local seed bank, so people need to grow. They want to have more diverse crops and food than they need to grow in Hawaii, as the U.S. try to cut us off from food and starve Hawaiians off, or you try to do whatever they are always trying to starve Hawaiians out, allowing colonial mismanagement, but and also desertification, toxifying our lands. They spilling oil in it. They invented Agent Orange and tested it in Hawaii. So in Hawaii, we're trying to have as much land back as possible, and that's one of the things we do, as well as making streams and video games, like Neofeud 2, which is a game about it's a sequel to Neofeud 1. I'm nearly done. I'm just editing the final. I'm compiling the final script for that. I'm gonna be getting the voice. I'm a little bit behind getting the voice actors. So I'm gonna be doing that very soon. So look out for that. If you wanted the voice act, I know I said I was gonna put it out in January, but I know I'm late. Neofeud 1 is on Steam. It is an anti-capitalist, anti-imperialist, anti-racist game about how the Star-Spangled Roman Empire is not very different from the Roman Empire, which is not very different from the barbaric feudal world, and it's called Neofeud because they're of all those things. And also, I like Game of Thrones. It was a show that was back when America made actually entertaining circuses in a Star-Spangled Roman Empire. Game of Thrones was fun, and it's an overlay of a cyberpunk social worker and a cyborg social worker, a ex-con robot, and a ex-trillionaire princess do revolution in the dying United States as people are starving to death and the robots are running out of electricity to power themselves. And or they try to do revolution anyway. And also you can also have if you have a second to leave even a very short review, if you like Neofeud, it is massively appreciated to leave a positive review if you liked it, because it helps us to get the game discovered in the Steam algorithm. You can also help us out at itch.io by grabbing Neofeud there. You can also get Decolonators. I mean, again, this is mutual aid. Is if you just buy our video games, that's one way you can. I seen that actually. Don't shop at any big U.S. government corporate operations. Don't buy American. But when you buy Neofeud, you're buying anti-imperialist, indigenous Hawaiian. Okay, all the money as much as we can is going straight to us. Okay, don't buy big corporate American, big tech, big U.S. games, big U.S. whatever, as much as you can manage. Okay, get communist, anti-colonial games about kicking capitalist colonizer ass out of your sovereign country like the colonizers. There is no game that I know of, except there's one. There's like it's Palestinian made game for Hassan al-Aqsa. But other than that, it's the only game where you directly fight the United States empire for communism and destroy and defeat the U.S. empire in a historically accurate video game. Down to John McCain flying his planes, getting shot out of the sky by a woman with an AK-47. A Vietnamese woman, communist with an AK-47. That literally happened. I'm not joking. Well, no, okay, John McCain did get shot down, but maybe it wasn't by Luna's character. Woman is a book by Holly, who was made in right-wing Protestant. Holly was raised in evangelical Protestant Christianity, and this is a book that Holly wrote that critiques that world from the perspective of Mary within the Bible. It is free, or you can directly support us by donating some money when you pick that up. You can follow us on Little Red Note. I talked about that several times, so you can follow on the Little Red Note, Red Book, aka XHS Xiao Hong Shu. Look at every time I turn this on, I got at least one Free Palestine. Free Palestine, fuck Tesla. That's what we're talking about. You see this? And then we got, look at this pro-masking pick. I don't even know who this person is. No, I'm just kidding. That's Holly. So get on Red Note, where everything is way more educational and based, and they ban far-right extremists and U.S. imperialists and actual racists. Just get ass kicked off. And on Twitter, indigenous people. I mean, all the Facebook, Twitter, all the Western platforms, it's garbage. Right? If you say free P word, I can't even say the word. Free the people from the P place, and then you get your thing gets shadow banned. You get called you're anti-Semitic on TikTok now because they got Zuckerbergified. You gotta get on Red Note. I'm telling you. Before the U.S. bans it, you gotta get on there and at least sample what it's like to live in a civilization. Okay. Anyways, you can follow Silver Spook. Just type in Silver Spook, and it should come up when you go on the Red Note. Okay. You can also follow, obviously on Mastodon. Mastodon is a decentralized. It's a lot of it is in the West, but it is not. Much of it has emerged there, but it is a decentralized, federated social media platform. It's good to have diversify away from just one Western controlled information source like a Facebook or a Twitter, Instagram, Western corporate imperialist controlled. Mastodon is more distributed. So if something goes wrong with Red Note, you have at least some fallback. If I get all accounts, because sometimes my accounts will get in trouble because I say true things while being a native Hawaiian. So we have at Mastodon at Silverspook Games at wandering.shop and/or at Silverspook Games at mastodon.social, and we also have Blue Sky Twitter as usual. And you can also follow on Twitter at Silverspook Guy, and you can also follow Holly at Holly is at Allergic to Blue. Of course, and Holly is of course married to myself, mama of two, our great moderator here, member of Silverspook Indigenous-run anti-capitalist cooperative Silverspook Hui. And of course, sharing important information about masking, because we're still in many damaging, horrible airborne illnesses we got to stop from spreading. So let us keep on wearing those. And thank you to all of our patrons for all your ongoing support. Hugely appreciated for all of that. Without our patrons, it's hard for us to keep doing this work. So thank you so much for all of your Patreon patronage. Until next time, keep mirror safe policy, be excellent to each other, get organized. Figure out where where you're gonna get your food, masks. Part of community care, community organizing, and organized community is protecting the community by stopping the spread of illnesses through things like masks and other things like that, and just not doing everything possible, not going out while sick, and not spreading illnesses, because those are part of what is going to hurt everyone in this time of great change. Until next time, keep mirror shades polished and have a good time with your